Hello guys, I'm Kiri, welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna talk about Lancia Beta HPE, or Beta in Italian. The particular car in front of us is a 1600 twin-cam engine, which was very popular back on the day. But was as well kind of a sporty engine, because the creator of this engine was not someone else, but engineer Aurelio Lampredi, the one who was working at Ferrari 1950s before to arrive in Fiat. We're gonna come to this later, but now let's see what car was Lancia Beta HPE. Lancia Beta was the first car developed by Lancia after Fiat took over the company in 1969. With the fresh money from Fiat, Lancia did an amazing platform for this new model. The chassis was so good and unique, and on this chassis actually Lancia made many different model variations of the Beta model. Was presented first in 1972 like a 4-door Berliner fastback style. Then it came the 4-door notchback saloon Lancia Beta P. This was designed by Pininfarina and was very cool car. In 1973 was presented the coupe version. This was very beautiful car designed in-house by Lancia. On the same short wheelbase like the coupe, later the Spider arrived. Now this was designed by Zagato, and even today the car looks astonishing. In 1974 Lancia presented the model Beta Monte Carlo. Now this is the most special of all of the Beta range, because of the design was actually made by Pininfarina and was very interestingly mid-rear engine and two-seat car. Many common things this car has with the model Fiat X19. This was my dream car from the time I see the car, so it was really very cool car. The last version we didn't mention was the model, the one in front of us, Lancia Beta HPE. Was first introduced early 1975, and how you can see is a bit strange design on the back. So this what HPE mean actually, high performance estate, or later estate was replaced by executive. Anyway, was very similar to design to 1974 Lotus Elite. This was the estate version of the Beta range, because they have already 4-door fastback, 4-door notchback, 2+2 coupe, Spider and rear wheel drive mid-engine, and on the end they needed a estate. So here you go. The HPE designed body is fixed into the long wheelbase platform, the same like in the 4-door fastback. We said early, the first Beta was introduced in 1972, but the HPE in 1975. But all actually Beta versions were discontinued in 1984. So the car in front of us, the HPE, was in production from 1975 to 1984. In the beginning, Lancia HPE used 1.6 and 1.8 liter twin-cam Lampredi engines, but later they were replaced by the new versions, again Lampredi of course, 1.6 and 2 liters, both again twin-cams. Because the car in front of us is a 1.6 liter, we're going to give more attention to this engine, but just to mention the other early 1.8 liter twin-cam, later 2 liters twin-cam, and of course the one with the supercharged 2 liter Volumex. This was the top versions, the Volumex supercharged Lancia Beta. All their 4-cylinder inline. The early 1.6 liter was installed into a Beta HPE only in 1975. This was 1592 cc, 100 horsepower. In the same year, for all Beta model, arrived the new 1.6 liter, 1585 cc. The same we have in our car, 1600 twin-cam. Now we want to say that this engine for 1975, even early, was one of the top 1600 engines in the world. If you believe or not, this 1.6 liter engine in 1975, again I'm gonna say even early, this engine was producing 100 horsepower. So this was something unheard for early 1970s. And all this is because of the engineering of the maestro Aurelio Lampredi. We mentioned early, he was working at Ferrari before to join the biggest Italian car brand Fiat. And for Ferrari, he makes some of the most incredible engines, like in the Ferrari 500 TRC, the 4-cylinder, 500 TRC, but also some incredible V12 naturally aspirated engines, racing engines, like in Ferrari 275S and Ferrari 375 Formula 1 cars. He was a really big name in the world. Very famous with the Ferrari engines, but later he moved to Fiat in 1955. There at Fiat, he did some of the most efficient racing style engines. He retired in 1982, where he was actually for the last 10 years boss of the Fiat's Abarth racing group. So many of the Fiat and all the Fiat's companies were using the famous, the same time very reliable Lampredi engines. Lancia Beta HPE with the 1600 twin-cam engine was very high performance and fast, and on the same time was sporty luxury car. Lancia was very innovative company from the beginning. Is still very innovative for the time. Very modern look for the early 1970s with 4 disc brakes, optional automatic transmission, power steering wheel, later fuel injection, we mentioned sporty twin-cam engines, independent suspension, front-wheel drive and transversely mounted engine, etc. etc. Now about the engine. We said it's the Lampredi 4-cylinder block inline, but originally this engine was developed for the Fiat's rear-wheel drive cars like Fiat 131 and 132. In Fiat, the engine is mounted longitudinally simply because the cars are rear-wheel drive. But this was impossible for the front-wheel drive Lancias. So what they did, they just changed the mounting points on the block. They just put them on different places, so to be right for transversely installation in the engine bay. In that case, it was impossible to change engines from Fiat to Lancia and the opposite way respectively. Later, in the end of 1970s, early 80s, when Fiat went to front-wheel drive configuration, the engines were interchangeable. I remember a friend of mine a long time ago bought a Fiat Ritmo or Strada in UK, so Fiat Ritmo 105 TC. Was the same engine 1600 twin-cam with 105 horsepower. The car had original Abarth alloy wheels, rear spoiler and Abarth steering wheel. It was very cool. Then he rebuilt the engine and the car was really very fast. These 1600 twin-cam Lampredi engines are really very powerful, very flexible, and the noise they do, especially in the high revs, is just amazing. Lancia Beta HPE later in 1980s was renamed to only Lancia HPE, so high performance estate. We said it used a 4-door Berliner chassis, but the front side of the car was identical to Lancia Beta Coupe or Lancia Beta Spider. Even was the same car up to the front doors. So the face of the car, the bonnet, the front wings, the doors are identical with Lancia Beta Coupe or Lancia Beta Spider. Just the back of the car was different design. Very unique for this model. So this variation actually was very similar to Maserati. They have the same with Maserati Bora and Maserati Merc. They're the same cars from the front to the doors, but after that they're different. For 1970s, really was very innovative decision to make 6 different cars but on the same name Beta and on the same chassis. Just for the model Monte Carlo, because it was mid-rear engine, they changed little bit the chassis. From all the Lancia Beta cars, the Monte Carlo is the best looking car, actually, the most cool car, of course, and the most exotic. With this rear engine, rear wheel drive, very sporty, but after the Monte Carlo was the Beta HPE. This high performance estate was very attractive as well, but again we're gonna say it was luxury car, very luxury for the class. The problem with all the Lancia Beta cars was the rust issues, especially in some very important place of the car, where the cars usually need to be very solid. In the engine subframe, we didn't mention that before, so the engine was attached to special subframe and then into the car underneath the car. So there are lots of rust, and in the front and rear suspension as well. So this rust issue were the biggest problem for all Lancia Beta cars. And this model actually, Lancia Beta, especially in UK, because the weather there is very different than in Europe. So especially in UK, the cars even they get worse. After 2-3 years even of ownership, the rusties came, so this was massive problem for Lancia. And actually this model, Lancia Beta, was put the Lancia down and make the brand in absolutely big trouble. So because of this models, Lancia Beta, actually on the end, Lancia went down, and for years they couldn't just stand up. So this is the biggest problem with the Lancia Beta. They're a very cool car, really very nice looking car, amazing design from every angle you look the car, every model even, they're just incredible, absolutely fantastic. With these 4 lights on the front, the car looks really amazing, like the rally cars, like the Lancia Delta Integrale, Lancia 037, the last rear wheel drive championship car, 1983 037, even later Lancia Delta S4. So the car looks really aggressive, very cool car, but the rust issues, especially in UK, make the car really worse. But on the end, it's very cool car and very innovative, and not too many survive today. So this is the really the important thing of this car. So guys, I hope you liked the video about this Lancia Beta HPE, really very rare model today. You can see not many of them on the roads. So if you like the video, please subscribe my channel, and see you next time guys. Bye.